February 29th, 1954. David's mom always offered to drive him to school, she knew. Although David would never say a word, his eyes displayed practiced innocence, and the key to the padlock on his lips was buried deep, somewhere between pride, embarrassment, and fear. February 29th, 1954. 1954, like David is the reason Medicare is about to go bankrupt. 1954, like on a stormy day, David had trouble telling which house was his. 1954, like David bet that the transplanted grass and trees weren't even flammable. David had all the symptoms of a bully victim, that too short, too fat, unathletic, not good enough, not attractive enough to fit in, with all the other babies turned adolescents booming their way through the 1950s. And of course, David had that falsetto operatic voice that annoyed no one nearly as much as David himself. Every morning, as the sun revealed the suburban sickness of David's town that you've never heard the name of, his mom would start the car that sounded like the GI Bill. And every morning, David would walk right past, making sure to catch the eyes of his reflection in the perfectly shined window. He would give a nod so slight that only that reflection could possibly have seen it. And then he would walk, broken strut to school, one leg 1.1 inches shorter than the other, that earned him nicknames like Limp Bizkit or Forrest Gump. On Sundays, while everyone else sang in perfect harmony, David would be asking God if this was on purpose. Was there some lesson that he had yet to learn? Or 8 years, 2 months, and 4 days ago, had God been lazy? Had God fucked up? Do universe makers binge drink like little boy makers, home breakers do? Does God have vices too? David wondered. Every day, David took the long route to school down Geronimo Avenue. And every day, more sure than the tick of his father's wristwatch, the three sons of the Fates would be waiting for him, waiting for their punching bag. His mom always asked why he wouldn't let her drive him, why he wouldn't at least take Henry Kissinger's street, whose pacified sidewalks held no bullies. And every day, David assured her not to worry. He just fell playing football with his friends. But on February 29th, 1954, David learned that tears and a broken nose can't lie and say these bruises are from recess. Holding her only son in her arms, Madeline asked for the last time why he insisted on taking Geronimo Avenue instead of Henry Kiss. He cut her off. And with the most unfaltering voice that had ever burst from his lips, David said, "Mom, today I took the long way to school, down Geronimo Avenue, because it goes through Wintergreen Park. 3 bullies sit at the entrance from where you can see the forget-me-nots and Jerusalem sages smiling like they were singing the hymns of freed slaves, where you can hear the squirrels jumping from tree to tree as if they were flipping off gravity, where you can see the pigeons strutting their runway, making us all jealous that we've never adopted them as pets. The bullies stand in a perfect, faultless wall, but they look like the most confounding maze I've ever seen. Mom, I walk this way for all the blind poets who will never be able to read their fantasies but keep on writing. For Sisyphus, who knows his boulder will roll back down the mountain every night, but he wakes up every morning happier than the gods who have trapped him in the underworld, and he starts rolling it back up again. For the kids in Terezin concentration camp who drew ghosts of butterflies they knew they would never see again, so that the other prisoners would have something beautiful to look at. Because, Mom, once I was at a zoo staring at a bird that everyone else was just walking past, because the sign above its cage said mute. That bird gave me a wink before it slipped between the bars of its cage, and I swear I heard it humming as it flew up towards the sun and landed on Icarus's shoulder. I walked this way for all the other kids who have a homunculus on their shoulders, snickering in the ear that they're not good enough, they're too short, they're too fat, unathletic, not beautiful, because I was hoping today would be the day that those bullies wouldn't have to beat me up to silence that voice in their own heads. It wasn't. It must have been louder than ever, and I waited until the pain felt like freedom, and I'm not talking freedom like Iraq, the Kagans, and drone strikes. I'm talking freedom like lighting yourself on fire, because that's the only agency you have left. And then I ran, and the wind whistled in my ears like Clark Kent's Fortress of Solitude. I ran so the turtles could live vicariously through me. I ran until those bullies realized they couldn't keep up with that kid who no longer seemed so short, so fat, or so unathletic. I ran like, if you want to call me Limp Bizkit or Forrest Gump, look at me now. They gave up like they always do before the end of the park where the daisies grow. Mom, today I walked to school down Geronimo Avenue so I could pick a daisy for the girl who always waits for me on the other side of the park. February 29th, 2004, David's teacher asked the class to write down a fantasy of what their lives might have looked like 50 years ago. David's journal entry is partly blotted out by a coffee stain. His single father spilled Starbucks on his paper as he was driving him to school. David was just happy no one had ripped it up yet. The girl's name was Jillian.